Loss coach, nutritionist, a guy who cares, and that's why we share. And the goal today is to talk about intermittent fasting. Now, if you are catching me new on YouTube, do me a favor and subscribe so that you get notified when we upload any new videos. And also share, put it out there because a big part of our goal is to inform people so that they are not likely to fall prey to those who are misinformed. And when you are sharing information with other people, then you wouldn't be misinformed. And I always want to encourage people that anything that I share, do your due diligence and go look it up. Or if you're a client of mine or you work with any of our coaches, then reach out because we can provide you with citations that support every claim that we make because we are evidence based and clinically proven as far as our nutrition plan and meeting people where they are and putting them in a position where they can be successful based on where they are. Now, today, as I mentioned, we are going to talk about intermittent fasting, the pros and cons, if you will. But let me first just say up front, I am not against intermittent fasting, not at all. I have nothing against intermittent fasting, the same as I don't have anything against spiritual fasting, and I don't have anything against political fasting. And I believe when you're doing spiritual fasting or certain fastings, there's a lot of benefits to fasting from a spiritual standpoint. However, I do want to kind of just jump in and share with you a real story of a situation I ran into a few years back where I was working with a church after they had done 40 days of fasting. It was very similar to intermittent fasting, which we'll talk about. But this is what happened. The church, the pastor of the church was a client of mine, and he knew how the diet free life methodology worked. Um, and he asked me one day, hey, we have this spiritual fasting coming up. We're going to go 40 days, it's like a Daniel fast. We're going to avoid certain things. There's a period of time where you can't eat. And I was like, okay, sounds great. But we didn't really talk about it much. And I'm not sure what he wanted at the time. But after they did the fast, quite a few members of his church lost weight. And about 6 months goes by, and then he brings it to my attention. He says, hey, something crazy happened at my church. And I go, what's that? He says, people looked amazing. They were walking around talking about how great they felt. Everything was just going well after the fast. And then they gained all the weight back. And so he says, the next time we do the fast, could you kind of guide us? And I said, absolutely. Because one of my big problems with fasting is not everyone is able to fast. And then when they have their first meal, transition into that meal to where they don't create damage. Many people will jump to fast because it gives them some structure on how to go through their day. And many of these people look at fasting or intermittent fasting as a solution to helping them lose weight and become healthier. And I totally agree. And I also disagree. Now, when I was on the Steve Harvey show, when he was on NBC, not the Steve Harvey show, the doctors, when I was on the doctors, they wanted me to come on and to debate about um, intermittent fasting. And so when they first called me, the first thing I told them, I said, well, I'm not against it, but I could 100% participate. So they said, okay, so you'll be on the con side, the negatives of intermittent fasting with a cardiologist, and you will debate with a cardiologist and a nutritionist who believe in intermittent fasting. Well, we did the show, and the entire time I'm sitting there wondering, how am I going to communicate this and not come across like I'm totally against it? Well, long story short, I won the debate. And even the doctor that was on there after we were done with the show, he says, man, you kicked my butt. And I said, my goal was not to kick your butt. But as you know, there are other ways to lose weight. And most of the time when people go with intermittent fasting, they're looking for structure. And there's quite a few people who are really into fitness and they'll swear by how intermittent fasting helps them. And what I get from that, and this is not coming from a place of being arrogant, but what I get from that is that they don't know other ways. they don't have a methodology like we do with Diet Free Life. They don't know how to make fat burning meals. Remember, we're evidence based, scientifically proven. Okay. Our methodology works. So when I was on the doctors, my point was if you have 100 people that do intermittent fasting and they all lose 50 pounds, then you have 100 people who go with the Diet Free Life methodology, works with me or one of our coaches, and they lose 50 pounds. Well, with us, you're eating breakfast, you're eating carbs, and you lose the same 50 pounds. And then you have the other group that's going without eating. My question would be, if you can lose weight eating, what do you prefer? And I believe most people would say, well, I like the idea of being able to eat. So the difference between someone who runs to intermittent fasting and someone who knows the Diet Free Life methodology, the difference is education. When you know how to eat and you understand our methodology, there is no need to do intermittent fasting. And I meet people all the time. I just met a lady the other day, and she may actually hear this, but she just runs up to me in the grocery store and just goes on and on about, I'm doing this intermittent fasting. And oftentimes when someone knows that I am a nutritionist and that I have a proven nutrition plan that has helped thousands of people, and they start telling me about their diet, it makes me wonder, they probably don't really understand what I do or what the Diet Free Life methodology is. They have an idea, but they really don't know. And guess what? They don't want to know. And so I totally get that. They don't want to know. And so they will rather just jump from one thing to the next thing. And that's not what I'm about. I am not about that. I'm about education. So again, you can go and do intermittent fasting if you want, but let's see how that works out for you over the next year. Because what I have seen is that people will do it. They'll get off to a great start. Then there'll be either travel, vacation, there'll be like some type of meeting in the morning, and then they'll start kind of redirecting the days and times that they do intermittent fasting, and they're forcing to get it to work. And again, all they're doing is just avoiding eating. That structure gets them off to a good start. But why not get educated? Why not know how to make fat burning meals? Why not like learn like about nutrition instead of just being blind, right? Like why just be like the sheep? I'm big on let's get you informed because they don't know any better. So again, you could get the number one expert with intermittent fasting, and people can post and comment and be negative and say I don't know what I'm talking about all day long, but I do know what I'm talking about because I have we have 24 physicians since 1995 that have lost over 100 pounds eating breakfast. We have one that lost 165 pounds and still practices eating breakfast. We have pro athletes, world-class athletes who follow this methodology, eating, and they lost the weight, made the weight, and made the money. We have a ton of moms. Our biggest weight loss is 290 pounds since I got into this space, eating breakfast. I eat breakfast. Most of the coaches I work with eat breakfast. I mean, come on. So is there a place to do fasting? Yes, there is. I have some clients that I have literally had fast, but for a specific reason and for a specific period of time. Most of the time is not necessary at all. However, and I just want to stress it one more time before I say goodbye, I'm not against it. There's not a whole bunch of negatives against it, except for I just think it's not necessary. But if you want to do it, then God bless you and do it. Make it happen. Go for it. And if you are doing a spiritual fasting, because I know some churches are getting ready to do that, that's great. For that period of time, do your spiritual fasting, but still educate yourself so you can transition from the fasting back to life. Back to life, back to reality. Remember that song? If you don't, you're probably too young to be listening to this anyway. All right. All right, so we're keeping it sweet. My goal was to do this and talk about this for 12 minutes, no more than 12 minutes. In my follow-up, I am going to share with you guys what triglycerides are, why it's important to know, and how one of my clients recently in his 70s, when he came to me, he had done all kind of medication, and we're talking years of having elevated triglycerides. Just yesterday, he came in with his lab work, and I was blown away because I can't promise the world, because I've seen people where it appears that genetically they're going to have elevated triglycerides. You know, I had a marathon runner, and this guy just had elevated triglycerides, and he was eating like he was a robot. He ate extremely lean and clean and was on point all the time, running marathons, competing, very lean. Body fat was down to like around 8%. This guy was extremely fit, and we never got his triglycerides down. Whereas I have this client who I started working with a little over a year ago, and his triglycerides were always high. He just accepted that that's just the way it's going to be. And now they're normal. Who do you know that would like to get healthier? Who do you know? And why do people wait until it's too late? Why do they wait until the stroke happens? Why do they? Don't put it off. We're here to help you. Okay. And if you just have questions, we're here to help you. So our email is there. I will check out all of the links that we have made available. And if you have questions, reach out. We will help you out. We can help guide you in the right direction. And if you want to be a coach, now is the time to do it, because we have some things happening. And very soon, just saying that I am a diet-free life coach is going to open up a whole bunch of opportunities. So I'm Robert Ferguson. Thank you for listening in. And again, I'm not against fasting. I believe it really comes down to education. So we know fasting can help and can work. We also know that the Diet Free Life methodology, being coached by myself or one of our coaches, worked and can help. There's enough data to support both sides. I prefer to eat, and most people I meet, they like to eat also. So we're going to eat and live our healthiest life instead of like putting ourselves on a restriction and saying that we can't eat because we know how to eat. I hope that makes sense. And if it doesn't, you can make comments and I will get back to you and provide some answers.